Today we're talking about finding the radius and the diameter and the area and the circumference of circles when given different pieces of information. We're going to start by giving the circumference. We're going to find the radius and the diameter. It's always easiest to start by finding the radius if you're given the circumference, because the formula for circumference is c is equal to 2 times pi times the radius. And since the radius is in the formula, it's always easiest to go back to finding the radius. So in this case, I'm given the circumference is 25.1. So I'm going to plug that in for c into the circumference formula. And that's 25.1 is equal to 2 times pi times the radius. Now what I like to do from here is figure out what 2 pi is. 2 pi is 2 times 3.14, which is 6.28. times the radius is equal to 25.1. This makes my calculations and my solving a whole lot easier because I don't have to worry about this special symbol pi. I can use the number 6.28, which is a lot easier to use in a lot of cases. And this is just a simple equation where all you have to do is divide both sides by 6.28 and then just calculate 25.1 divided by 6.28, and that'll get you your radius is equal to, and my calculator says 3.9968, and we're going to call that 4 after it is rounded. Now the second problem that we have up here is not asking for the radius, but is asking for the diameter. So make sure that you're paying attention to the directions of these questions, because if you just found the radius, you'd get the answer wrong by about half. So circumference is equal to 2 pi r. In this case, I have the circumference is equal to 44. So again, I'm going to plug that in for c into my formula. 44 is equal to 2 times pi times the radius. Again, 2 pi is equal to 6.28. Bring down the radius is equal to 44. And then this is again a simple division equation. All I have to do is divide both sides by 6.28. And that'll get me the radius is equal to 7. And you might stop there. You just think, okay, that's my answer. I found the radius. But remember, we are not looking for the radius. We're looking for the diameter. So make sure you're paying attention to that. Now, the diameter is twice as big as the radius. So that means my final answer would be the diameter of this circle is equal to 14. Now, these aren't the only types of problems that you could ask. There's some other types of problems, like the next one is not asking for the radius or the diameter, but is asking for now the area of the circle. So we're not going to just be able to use one formula. We're going to have to use both of the formulas. We're going to start off with the given information, which is circumference. So I know I'm going to have to use c is equal to 2 times pi times the radius. That is the formula that I'm going to start with because that's the information that I'm given. 50.3 is the circumference, so I'm going to plug it into the formula where it goes. 50.3 is equal to 2 pi r. Again, that's 6.28 times the radius after I do the calculation. And all I have to do now is divide both sides by 6.28, and I'll have the radius of this case is equal to 8. But again, I'm not asked for the radius. This is a piece of information that is going to be useful for me in this problem, but it's not what I'm asked for. I'm asked to find the area. So now I'm going to have to use yet another formula. I can't use the circumference formula anymore. I have to use the area formula. Area is equal to pi times the radius squared. Now the reason why I worked my way back to the radius in the beginning is because the radius is found in the area formula as well. So I need to know the radius before I can calculate the area. So once we have the radius of 8, all I have to do is say area is equal to pi times 8 squared, which would be equal to 64 pi, because 8 squared is 64. If you want a decimal approximation to that, 64 pi is around 203. 64, let me calculate it real quick. Pi is equal to 201. Area is equal to 201.1. So that is the answer that we would be looking for in a decimal approximation, but you most certainly may leave it as 64 pi. This is not the only type of information that we're going to start with. On these first 3 examples, we started by given the circumference, but it could also be that we're given the area. So this next example, we're asked to find the radius, and we're given the area. So in this case, we don't start with c equals 2 pi r. We start with a is equal to pi r squared. Now, it says we're given the area, this 314.2. We're going to plug that into where a is in the formula. 314.2 is equal to pi r squared. To solve this type of formula is done differently. We need to divide both sides not by 6.28, but this time we're dividing by 3.14 or pi. When I divide both sides by pi, that'll cancel this pi on the right, leaving me r squared by itself. And on the left side, that's going to get me about 100 if I use the exact value of pi. Now, since r squared is equal to 100, that's not my radius, that's my radius squared. The undoing of a square is done by doing a square root. So we're going to square root both sides, give me r is equal to 10, because 10 times 10 is equal to 100. And that's what I was asked for, so I can stop there on this problem. I don't have to go any farther. The next two examples are again giving you the area. This time it is asking you for the diameter or for the circumference respectively. So again, the first thing we want to do is work our way down towards where the radius is. So we're going to start with a is equal to pi r squared, because that's the only formula for area that I know for a circle. And I'm going to go ahead and plug the 452.4 in for a. 452.4 is equal to pi r squared. 452.4 needs to be reduced by dividing that by both sides by pi, and that'll get me 144 is equal to r squared after I divide by pi. I should probably write that down. Alright, so 144, well, I think you all know what that is. When we square root both sides to get rid of the squared on the r, that'll give me r is equal to 12. Now, a lot of people stop there, and on a multiple choice test, 12 would be an answer in most cases, because we know that people don't read these questions. We are looking for the diameter. We're not looking for the radius. So our diameter is going to be twice the radius, so d is equal to 24. And that would be my answer to this problem. We just had to get the radius first before we could get the diameter. In number 6, it says find the circumference of the circle, and we're given the area. So again, we're going to start with the area formula. Area is equal to pi r squared. 12.6 is my area, is equal to pi r squared. And I'm going to solve this the exact same way that I've solved the other ones. I'm going to divide both sides by pi, and when I divide them by pi, I'm going to get a number that is approximately 4 is equal to r squared. I want to then square root both sides to get rid of the square on the r, and that'll give me r is equal to 2. Again, that will probably be an answer choice on a multiple choice test, just the number 2. But that's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for the circumference. So I have to then write down what the circumference formula is. Okay, well, c is equal to 2 pi times the radius. So whenever I go about multiplying that out, c is equal to 2 times pi is 6.28. 2 times pi times the radius of 2. Now this actually happens to be equal to 12.6. Now you say, well, that's the same number that we started with up here. And that is just a happy coincidence in this case. It happens because 2 times 2 is the same thing as the r squared, the radius squared. It just happens to be in this case. When the radius is 2, the area and the circumference are the same.